You are now listening to the J Ade podcast.
We're getting ready to start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the J Ade podcast. It's your boy J Ade in the building, and we are back for season 4, episode 1 of the show. Before we even introduce today's lovely guest as well as the topic for the day, make sure you follow your boy on Instagram at Joe the Great. That's JOETHEGR8, as well as my podcast page at j.ade.pod. Both on the gram. But as I said, we do have 2 lovely guests today. We have one lady, we have one gentleman. So we're going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. So as we always do, we can have the lady introduce herself first. Then the gentleman will do so subsequently. So, lady, what's your name? Where are you from?
It's very fitting because my name is Ada, and it stands for first daughter. But full name, Adachi, Nigerian, Igbo babe, true and true.
Igbo Kwenu.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Okay. Got any socials to shout out?
Yeah, I'm kind of setting them up, resetting up actually.
Oh, okay.
But you can find me at EJIJE_Adachi, ADACHIII.
Okay. On the gram.
On the gram.
Got you. All right. All right, gentlemen. What's your name? Where you from?
Yo, what's good, people? My name is Zlor. I'm from Liberia, LIB boy, Liberian Pekin. I'll bring it there, I'll bring it there,
Okay.
So currently living in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
Grew up in Washington, D.C. So, yeah, that's me, Zlor. You can follow me on Instagram at Zlor Massaquoi. If you figure out how to spell that, great. If not, Joe gonna tag it.
All right, yes, it's gonna get tagged regardless.
You feel me? And make sure you go holler at my company, Swimply.official.
Shameless plug, yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm gonna shamelessly plug my company. It's gonna be one of the greatest companies you ever heard about.
Y'all heard it here first, JD Podcast, baby.
Private pool rentals by the hour. It's Airbnb, but for swimming pools, go get your swimming pool party season on this summer, ladies.
Yes,
y'all
sir.
fine as hell. Get out there, fellas. You know the ladies love the pool parties. Don't push no shorty in the pool because we don't tolerate that shit. But the rest
Etiquette,
the rest,
man.
You feel me?
We promote respect on the JD Podcast.
For real, and that's how we start the podcast off with respect.
Exactly. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, today's topic is something very interesting. We wanted to start out season 4 with a bang, so you already know what time it is. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce the topic after I say my little spiel, as I always do. Thank you to everybody who's been listening to my podcast during the off season. This is a 6-month off season, ladies and gentlemen. I haven't had this long of an off season since I started 2019, but thank you to everybody who's been showing me love. It's love, appreciate it. It's honor, appreciate it. And without further ado, in the 21st century, some would say that the conversations about the LBGTQIA plus community may not necessarily have become easier to talk about, but are certainly more widespread. Specifically, awareness and knowledge as it pertains to the various facets of this community is on the rise, but there are certain components that only members of that community can truly answer accurately. Alternatively, there are people from outside of the LGBTQIA plus community that have shaped their own beliefs based on personal observations and or speculation. But today we'll be getting answers directly from the source. With that being said, today we'll be discussing homophobia. Y'all ready?
Let's go.
All right, so we have the lady introduce herself first. We're going to have the gentleman state their opinion first. First question for the day is, what do you define as homophobia?
I'd say I define homophobia as the disenfranchisement,
Get my water ready, man.
Yeah, disenfranchisement of people that identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual. I think it's discrimination against those groups. It's the hatred, the lack of social awareness for the trials and tribulations that people go through just for being homosexual or being transgender.
Right.
I'd say that's what I define that as.
Okay. What about you, Londie? What is it to you?
I mean, honestly, yeah. It's literally, I think of form of like hatred, and sometimes it doesn't necessarily need to feel that deep, but just even like forms of disrespect and just
microaggressions,
right.
Macroaggressions, just literally being against whether you have a reason or not. But phobia is just kind of, I feel like it's also maybe has a sense, a form of like fear in there.
Okay.
And like uncertainty, because phobia, like the
Can you elaborate on that fear a little bit? Like what kind of fear do you think?
Fear of the unknown, fear of like what you're not used to, fear of what you don't understand.
Gotcha.
I would add in there fear of retribution because you may be assumed to be of that group. I think a lot of people fear. I think a lot of people are very like just hostile in their attitudes towards the LGBT community, because especially as a black man,
Right.
the last thing you want to be identified as for your protection and safety really is a queer person. And I think, you know, just being so like anti against it, like I'm so hard body against it,
Word.
that gives me a sense of protection, right?
Gotcha.
Because niggas know like you're not gonna step to me on that level,
Right.
Because it's been perceived to be a character of weakness. It's perceived to be an invitation to assault and harass,
Right.
And so if you don't want something like that, if you don't want people bringing that to your table, you're so like just
Closeted.
you're so angry in your approach to gay people. You're so like just, it's just very. It's the word starts with a V. I'm looking for like vitral or something like that.
Visceral.
Visceral. Who knows? I don't
Like
know.
your reaction.
Yeah, they podcast come through
very
that grammar
visceral.
season 4 visual vibe. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to start off by saying happy Pride
Yes.
to my queer brothers, sisters, and siblings.
All around the
you know
globe.
What I'm saying?
You know the vibe, man. You know the vibe.
Yeah.
All right, so without further ado, I want to ask a question too about that as well. I know you mentioned micro versus macroaggressions. Do you have any specific kind of examples and as it pertains to homophobia? Either of y'all two can answer that question. So I want to hear more about the macroaggressions too, because you know obviously you hear microaggressions thrown around a lot, but I wanted to kind of get you guys' perspective on like the macroaggressions as it pertains to them.
Man, macroaggressions. I look at the laws that are being written around the world. You
Okay.
know,
On a larger scale.
on a larger scale, like
Let's talk about it.
Even in Liberia, you know, a few years ago, they tried to introduce a anti LGBT bill,
Right.
where they would criminalize homosexuality with up to 10 years. This is a country that spent 14 years in civil war, a country that lost 1/3 of its population, a country that's ranked the 3rd poorest country in the world, a country that leads the world in child rape, child molestation, HIV, this, that, and the third, and that's what we're worried about. Gay people didn't cause that civil war. Gay people didn't kill 1/3 of the population. Gay people are not out here raping and molesting people's children. It's all a blame game. It's all to throw blame to the next side, so you don't have to answer for your actions and hold yourself accountable for what's going on in your country. It's scapegoating, and unfortunately, education and lack of education. The difference between a civilized world and an uncivilized world is education.
Right.
And if you create barriers to that education and you keep your people as simple-minded as possible, then you know you're able to indoctrinate them with whatever ideals against whatever groups you want.
Exactly.
And I think that those are a lot of the macroaggressions that we see, whether it's in Liberia, it's in America. Like here in America, we're still fighting for, you know, LGBT people to not be kicked out of their homes. Like, I live in Texas. Texas, if you're a queer person, you can still be fired from your job for it, and you can't sue because Texas is an at-will state. They could fire you for it, and that's that.
It's like that in Virginia too. I don't know about getting fired, but it's definitely at will for sure.
You know what I'm saying?
native on my
So
job. Yep.
those are like a lot of the macroaggressions. You know, murdering gay people in the streets is still illegal in a lot of the world. Supporting brands like, and we as people, you know, we contribute to that. I know we all love Chick-fil-A, and that shit is delicious. I will be the first motherfucker to say Chick-fil-A is God's gift
To the
To
universe.
the
fast food
to the
world.
fast food universe.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But you know,
Right.
they practice some of those microaggressions that we're
Right.
talking about. They
Right.
donate to you know, religious and conservative groups that take that money and they go to Africa and they spend that money indoctrinating African people with the white man's Bible, putting it in their hand, taking their wealth, robbing them blind at the same time. The same shit that was going on then is still going on now. Nothing's changed.
Word.
But so yeah.
Okay. And would you agree that like the laws are probably the biggest microaggression there is in terms of that community?
Yeah, because it's like you would have to think about it on like a societal, like a larger scale.
Word.
So like at that point now we're thinking about society, the systems and the structures within, and how they work against. Because like in America it's kind of progressive,
Right.
Comparative to other places,
Right.
but
And even though it's not that far, to
it's
be honest.
not,
Yeah, exactly.
right? And
Yeah.
it's still kind of like, you know, even like, I don't know. I mean, we can't forget how recently even like the law was passed for like same-sex marriage.
Right.
So it's just
That was
like,
in 2016.
you know, that wasn't that long ago.
That was 5 years ago.
So, and it's like gay people been around for how long?
Forever.
Beginning of life. So it's
Forever,
kind of
yeah.
just like, I mean,
and they're still fighting it.
yeah, it's on like the law, it's law level, society even, because at the end of the day, when you think about it, you kind of come into this world individually trying to find your place, right?
Right.
And you're kind of
kinda hard.
taught and told like these are the ways in which that you can kind of best maneuver and navigate the world.
Right.
And being queer is not typically included in that.
Right.
Like you're usually, at least I know, like at my young age, like I was being taught that wasn't okay.
Right.
So like, you know, on a
And we're gonna unpack that too in terms of cultural backgrounds and things like that too.
Right.
It's a good one today. Come on, lead it to
there's more about that too. But like it's just the idea that like on a general level, it's still pretty unacceptable and it's still pretty frowned upon and like problematic and dangerous and all that.
Okay, and I'm glad you made that point too. Just kind of a transition point, right? In terms of still staying on the phobia topic, right? So we spoke about homophobia, guys, and what you guys define as that, right? But kind of want to take it a step further, right? What do you guys define as transphobia now? And how would you say that those two things differ? So homophobia versus transphobia. Would you say they're hand in hand, or would you say that there's a certain group that is favored over another, or are they the same type of group, or kind of elaborate on that?
So, for me, because I've had some conversations and I've heard some things, and even just within like my journey with sexuality, you're still kind of learning, and so I wouldn't say they're not necessarily the same. Transphobia is specific to trans folks.
Okay.
But at the same time, I kind of, in terms of like the LGBTQIA community, right?
Right.
They fall under that. And so just like my safe umbrella term is just queer, right?
Okay.
Like you can fall under that, whether it's sexuality or identity.
Okay.
And so when I think that recent times people are kind of giving the focus and kind of even understanding that like transness is included, or even like there's a need to focus, or like I like to do, and I hate to have to do this, but it's almost like, in terms of like race relations, right? It's not that like other races or other ethnic groups aren't discriminated against, but like we're talking about Black lives. Right. So like just literally comparatively, right? It's like, it's not to say that the queer journey isn't this, but like we're talking about transness when it comes to transphobia. Right. So I would say that homophobia is kind of more of like a almost even outdated term too, because and not outdated, but just like it's so umbrella and it's so general that like I don't think it really kind of covers some of the nuances sometimes,
because oftentimes people consider transphobia under homophobia as
well. So hence why it's like I think it also depends on like the queer person you talk to. Right. Sometimes even within the community, everyone has like a different definition or a different understanding.
Yep. I've noticed that too myself. Yep.
So I just say like it's being respectful of people individually, and just but yeah, I don't know. I would say there's a difference, but like for me, I typically umbrella everything under queerness, and then obviously it's whatever as an individual, because queer people are very different. Right. Different. Yeah. So I don't know. You could answer.
Yeah, like what do you define it as, and like kind of like how would you define it in reference to homophobia?
I'd say if we're looking at what's going on in society right now, like transphobia is at its peak. It's really at the forefront, and I think in a lot of ways, especially here in the Western world in America, I'd say politicians have kind of realized they've lost the anti-homosexuality fight. Right. That ship has sailed. Gay marriage is here. Gay people have rights. Focus. There's no fear about being gay. Right. We have, medical programs that people don't have to fear dying from HIV and AIDS that plagued the gay community during those times. But I say transphobia is it's always kind of been like that silent elephant in the room. It's always been the pink elephant in the room. Transphobia has always been happening. I would define transphobia as violence against the trans community. Okay. And micro and macro aggressions that lead to that violence. One thing that's always kind of a hot button topic, like I love Dave Chappelle. I think Dave Chappelle is fucking hilarious. He's a great comedian. Right. But there's a transgender bit that Dave Chappelle does on his show.
With the car?
Yes, with the car. Yes.
I thought that was funny. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I mean, it was messed up. Hey, yeah.
It is.
Continue.
I can say I watched that and I laughed. Like, I was weak. All right. Yeah. But at the same time, a lot of transgender people aren't allowed the safety of passing. And a lot of times those jokes and those constant ridicules and criticisms of communities
take its toll.
Not even take its toll. it starts to break down the humanity of that community to others. Because now this isn't a human being anymore. This isn't a person that lives, that breathes, that cries, that works, that does every single thing that you do. They are now a spectacle for you to laugh at, for you to launch attacks against. And you know, it always starts out as a joke until it doesn't.
Right.
And I think that a lot of times the jokes that are targeted towards trans people, they impact the people that are around them, that are either attracted to them, and they're afraid to come out of the closet to say, hey, I'm an individual that is attracted to transgender people.
We're going to talk about that too. Individuals that are, you know, we're going
to. We ready?
We're going to get there.
It stacks up, you feel me?
Yeah.
And it makes this community a joke. It makes it something that you can laugh about, that you can taunt. And at what point does society just all of a sudden flip that switch and now, we're going to protect these people?
Right.
We've been making fun of them for so long.
Right.
We've been ridiculing them. We've been criticizing their lifestyle, but now we're going to protect them.
Yeah, exactly.
We've indoctrinated our population and our people to
not take them seriously.
To not take these people seriously.
Exactly.
So why would we take their pain seriously?
Right.
Why would we take the violence that's launched against them seriously?
Okay.
And that's what we have now. We have an epidemic of black transgender women not living to see past 35 years old. And do you know who the number one killer and antagonizer of black trans women is?
Black men.
Black men. And it's a shitty conversation to have because niggas don't want to hear it.
Right.
But it's the fact of the matter. And so to me, that's what I say transphobia is. Like, transphobia is, at least in the way that it has manifested itself, it's a lot more violent. Than homophobia is. Because they're getting straight to the source.
Okay, so,
I was going to say, part of me
yeah.
feels like it's like you said, is that now people are kind of used to the idea of potentially seeing, like, you know, two gay men walking down the street or two. So it's almost like they're used to that, and now it's like maybe if you don't necessarily agree with it, you're desensitized enough where you don't really like
comment on it or really look into it.
But then, like, now transness is
because you've been taught to laugh at them. You've been taught to laugh at that.
Now it's like it's open, almost like people didn't realize that trans people were here, but like now that they're kind of on like the spotlight, now it's bringing. So I don't know, like, these are questions that I personally have myself though. Is like, were they left behind in the queer movement? Because how is it now that we have this whole nother wave of like this violence towards queer folks, specifically trans people, when we're supposed to be all fighting? That's a whole nother topic too, because there is, like, I guess, reasons for that within the community. But it's a little, not disheartening, but it's a little disheartening to just.
It's very disheartening. It's fearful. And it kind of makes you feel like you're back at square one, you know?
Right.
Because at its core, you know, I know people say this all the time, but transgender rights are human rights. Gay rights are human rights, because at its core, what are queer people asking for, right? The right to be respected.
Yeah.
And
the right
what
to
are all
live.
people?
Yeah.
Just the right to live, to breathe.
The right
like,
to be able to earn.
Just let
they're
me
not
rock.
asking
Yeah,
for much.
rock.
They're not asking for anything special. They're literally asking for the same exact shit that you
Respect
got.
me as I am. Respect my name. Respect my pronouns. Refer to me as how I want to be.
We're going to talk about that too, man. The pronouns.
All those things. Like it's very simple. There's nothing extravagant that transgender people or gay people or queer people are asking that no other marginalized group in history has ever asked for.
Okay, and kind of piggybacking off that, right? So we spoke about kind of how we're back to square one with this, you know, new movement of kind of trying to support the trans community, right? So I wanted to ask that question of back to square one in reference to your cultural backgrounds, right? That's as square one gets, right? So I wanted to ask you guys specifically, first of all, what's your cultural background? You guys already spoke about that, right? So you're Nigerian, you're Liberian, but I wanted to know, how has your background affected your definitions of these terms and experiences over time? So from your square one when you were born until, you know, when you decided to finally, you know, express yourself to your
blossom into the person I am.
Exactly. And then to today, you feel me? So,
So, I mean, for people that are still hanging on to this podcast, first of all, respect to y'all. Thank y'all for still being here.
For sure.
So for me, I identify as a transgender man.
Okay.
There we go. Cats out the
bag. Cats out the bag. Yes, sir.
So I was born female.
Okay.
You know, I'm my mother's only child, my father's last child. Born in 1996, like youngest of, and I mean like youngest, like all my siblings, probably closest in age, coming in at like 36. So like at least
it's a little gap there.
It's a big gap.
Gotcha.
So I grew up, you know, like a normal kid. My mother was always very supportive. I was just very tomboyish. Like I hated being put in dresses. I hated like everything feminine. I just hated that shit. Like don't put me in that. And if you did, like as soon as it was time to be done, I'm ripping that shit off.
Yep.
I'm done with it.
Yep.
And I remember, you know, like just always just feeling like this just sense of unease, like real, like not even normal discomfort, Joe. Like to the point like I'd be like crying, like my mom's trying to put me in like this dress for Sunday school, and I'm like, bro, I'm not rocking that shit.
Word.
And you know, as I got older, I never knew a term for it. You know, like being Liberian. My mother's a very unique person in the sense that, you know, she works in a field. She works in HR. She works in a field where like this transgender movement and the queer movement is being like brought to her doorstep every single day.
Diversity and inclusion, they call
Bruh.
it, right?
Yeah. HR and then,
Yeah.
So, you know, she's like vice president of an entire HR for an entire corporation that takes government contracts.
Black excellence.
Black excellence, Liberian excellence, you know,
Yes,
3
sir.
master's degree, all that.
Yes, sir.
But, you know, I think that for her, this was the first time that it was really a test. Like I think everybody sort of knew that, like, I was, like, the odd kid, like, but I really didn't give a fuck. Like, I was just me. So it was very clear that, at least from a young age, like, Zilor was at least gay at the very least. Like, that was that. And then, like, you know, and that took some time for her. Like, I came out to my mom when I was 14 years old.
Okay.
And that shit was not easy. It was years of trials and tribulations and ups and downs, and I really took a lot of licks over it. Like, and I took it in the sense of, like, you know, I love my mother very deeply, and I'm gonna give her time. I'm gonna give her time for this because, you know, she has a right to that. But it wasn't easy. Before my mother was educated on what it meant to be a gay person or a queer person, and what it meant to have your rights being attacked 24/7.
Exactly.
You know, she didn't understand it. She thought that, you know, she could pray it out of me, she could name call it out of me, she could do this, that, and the third. And for a long time, it really did demolish our relationship. It made me feel unsafe. It made me feel like, damn, like I can't trust my mom to have my back on nothing. And it created this complex within me where I had to be very successful in life because I didn't want to be an average queer person. I kind of developed like this like exceptionality complex to me.
Chip on your shoulder.
Chip on my shoulder.
Gotcha.
I gotta prove everybody fucking wrong.
Right.
Because if I'm gonna do this, then nobody can tell me shit about how I live my life.
Exactly.
But that's how that went. And then when I was 20 years old. I'll never forget the day. It was October 8th, like 2017. I was living in Phoenix, Arizona. I was going to college, Grand Canyon University at the time. I was a women's college basketball player, D1. And I'm sitting there in my apartment, like, watching this football game with my homie. And, like, it just kind of, like, clicked, like, in that moment. Like, it was just, like, such a, like, sudden, like, just click in my mind. I was like, wow, I should have been born a man. And that was, like, the first time, like, I had verbalized it to myself. It was the first time I had ever said it out loud. And
did you express it to your homie as you was watching?
No, my homie was knocked out. Like, that nigga was asleep.
Okay. So he's watching the game by yourself.
Yeah. I was watching the game by myself.
Got you. All right.
And I'm like, yo, like, you know, here I am. I'm at this fucking Christian-ass university.
Right.
In the middle of Arizona. Like, I'm on a scholarship. This is the only way I'm going to pay for college.
Right.
I can't be this right now.
Right.
And so, you know, I locked that shit away and I left it where it was. And, you know, I had already gone through so much bullshit with my mom about my sexuality. Like, I was like, bruh, I already know there's gonna be some bullshit again. So I just left it where it was, and I graduated that year. I graduated 2017. I left, I graduated in 2018. I left to go to Texas to go to grad school. And then once I got to Texas, I remember I told the first person I ever told this to, like I ever verbalized this to, was my friend Mimi. And, you know, she was just like, well,
shout out Mimi.
Shout out my shorty Mimi, living out in Houston. I love you, Mama. I know you're going to see this. But, you know, she really held it down for me. And she was, you know, so supportive. And she worked me up to have the courage to tell my sister first. And my sister Nicole is, like, you know, one of my best friends. And so just, you know, I called her and I was like, hey, I got to tell you this right now. She's like, does it have to be right now? It absolutely has to be right now. And so I tell her, and she's like, wow, okay. Like, okay. She said, so what do you want to do? I was like, well, you know, I really don't know. Like, I don't know what this means. She's like, well, first of all, like, take a deep breath. This doesn't mean that nothing has to happen until you want something to happen.
Right.
So she's like, let's do this. Like, let's finish school. You're getting your master's. You're playing basketball one last year. Let's finish it out. And when we get to the end of the year, we're going to reconvene and we're going to see where we're at. We're going to talk about
next steps. Yeah,
we're going to talk next steps. And my sister's a doctor, so she understood that shit.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
And so, you know, like, end of the year comes, and, man, that was, like, one of the worst years of my life, bro. I'm sitting in these women's college basketball games and practices, and I'm just like, bro, like, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be here, but I need this. Like, I had to swallow that pill. Like, I'm sitting in practice dazed off, just thinking about, like, bro, like, how am I ever gonna tell my family about this? Like, how am I ever going to, like, look these people in the eye and tell them this? Because, you know, there's a perception that you lose a lot of value when you are a transgender person. That your life's not valuable. Media tells you it. People on TV tell you it. The songs, everything tells you it. Right. So, you know, here I have this superiority complex, and I'm like, oh shit, like, God just really knocked me in the mouth. So it was tough for a while. 2019 came around, and I told my mother about it in 2019, man. And it was right after Thanksgiving. So she had come to Texas. Her, my sister, my niece, they came to Texas. We had Thanksgiving together. It was great. My mom's getting ready to leave the next day, and I'm like, all right, I got to tell her. Like, come hell or high water, I have to tell her. Mm-hmm. So even the night before, you know,
I can't even imagine. I'm listening. I'm like just a sponge right now, just absorbing all this information. This is amazing.
Bro, the night before we go to dinner, and she's telling us about a transgender employee that's at their job, and, you know, how she's working with this woman to protect her identity and help her, you know, transition comfortably into the workforce and that. And my mom's, like, you know, being mad supportive about it. She's using the right terms, the right pronouns. I'm like, oh, this is a perfect segue right now. Yeah, clutch. She is ready. She's ready for this conversation. Yeah. Good God, was she not ready for this conversation? Oh man. And I remember I was really appreciative. My mom gave me the respect. Like, she just, same way you sat there, she just sat there and she listened and like took it all in, and like she was speechless. Like, and I was like, you really didn't see this coming? I
couldn't even like imagine, like, you know what I'm saying.
And the worst part was immediately after, like, she just went in my room and I just listened to my mom cry all night, like, cry, bro. Like, and I've heard my mother cry 2 times. That was maybe the 3rd time I'd ever heard my mother cry in my 21 years of living. She cried the day my father was assassinated. She cried, I think, the day I left for college. 4th time. She cried the day I told her I was gay. So 2 out of the 4. 2 out of the 4 were on me all the way. But, you know, time went by. We took a little bit of time away from each other, and I think that it was really good. Like, she had
as in, like, no communication type thing.
Like, it was very sparse communication.
Got you.
Texts here and there, and they weren't. It wasn't no small talk. It was very angry talk. Like, there was no happiness going on in those conversations. And
got you.
You know, we took a couple months off of each other and just kind of let that steam blow. And I've always been from the standpoint of, I'm not going to force.
Right.
If you don't like me because I'm a transgender person, that's okay. Okay. Like, and I'm not here to speak for all transgender people in the world. It is not okay to hate transgender people. I'm not saying that, but me personally, I want you. I really don't care, bro. I want you to be around me because you want to be around me, and I'm not going to be ashamed about who I am. Because I always stand by. Don't do nothing if you're ashamed of it. Right. If you ashamed to be doing it, you got no business doing it.
I agree with that.
And so, you know, I took my time with it, and my mom and I, we came back, you know, and, you know, even as she came along, you know, I remember she was like, you know, one time I was talking to her on the phone, she just goes, you know, I'm really trying. Like, I want you to know that. She's like, I'm really, really trying. I want you to know that. And I was like, you know, Mom, like, I believe you, and I trust that. And so we left that alone. Pronouns, I think it was like maybe like March. I could tell you the day. It was like March 8th. 2021.
Niggas got these dates down.
Bro, these are very important dates in my life.
No, I respect it. Shit.
March 8th.
I got October 8th. Was it October 8th earlier?
October 8th.
I'm a good listener, man.
I told her on November 22nd that I was transitioning. I remember I started my transition on June 4th of 2019.
Okay.
So actually, no, I told her in 2018. My apologies. November 2nd, 2018. But I started my transition when I was 21 years old. Or 22 years old, 22, my apologies. And, you know, she hadn't seen me in such a long time. This was the first time my mother had seen me since I really began my transition. Because when you first start transition, like, you don't really see, like, the changes and the effects and all that shit.
Right.
And so, you know, I live in Texas. I work a lot. And so this is the first time I got to come home. And when she walked through the door yesterday, she saw my face. And she was like, she said, Dougie, it's not easy. And she started laughing. I was like, yeah, you know, we get in there, and, you know, I can sense there's still a little bit of awkwardness. Like, she's still trying to, like,
get it.
She's trying to not even get it. Like, I think conceptually it has sunk in, but physically, like, to look across from the table and see, like,
Like completely different.
Somebody
Exactly, from-
completely different
I
that
mean, it's not the
sounds different,
same,
looks
but
different,
like
all that
kind
shit.
of
Like,
different, I guess,
Yeah.
right?
yeah. So culturally, you know, being Liberian and being LGBT is not easy. It's not as hard, I don't think, as being Nigerian or as being.
We're going to hear your story next. I hope you had plenty of time to, you know what I'm
know,
saying, prepare, because we're going to hear that. But
I think in terms of like cultures, I would say Liberia is one of the loosest cultures in terms of like in African terms, right? If we're talking about just African culture, Liberia's probably one of the easiest to be in a country to be gay. It
I would agree,
probably
low
is.
key, because y'all low key kind of chill, like generally
Very
speaking. You feel
chill.
me? Like very free. You know what I'm saying?
As far as like my family goes, man, like I haven't had one negative reaction from anybody in my family. Like the one person that was Liberian that had a negative reaction, like shorty, I don't even know that. I don't know sis from no motherfucking where for
That's
her
how
to
it
be
be,
talking
man.
in my ear
So those
about
niggas
what I'm
don't
gonna
know
do
you.
with my life for real.
Word.
So you know, I did it that real quick. She was like, "I rebuke it on you. That I said anything you pray on me, God will bring it back to your children tenfold." And she just like,
I hear that.
but as a family, man, it's been very good. I have relatives that are politicians and relatives that are executives and all these spaces, and you know, you would think that
They wouldn't embrace you type thing.
yeah, you
But
would
they
think
do.
that, but it's just been very smooth sailing, and I guess maybe that's the personality type I have. Like,
That's
don't
what's
bring
up.
bullshit to my door, and I'm not gonna accept it. So if you're gonna come here, you're gonna come correct, or you're just not gonna be here, and that's cool.
I respect that.
So I'd say overall, I think I have one of the more blessed coming out experiences, one of the more blessed transgender experiences that you could ever have. I have a phenomenal job, a phenomenal career, a phenomenal family, you know, great relationships all around me, and I haven't had to sacrifice much for that.
That's what's up. And that's rare as hell. You know what I'm
Very.
saying? I feel like most of the stories I've heard, which is not many, because I feel like I don't know that many trans people, full disclosure. But
You
from what I've
might.
heard,
You might. That's the
might.
thing.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't know. Like, from what I get, at least not that I know. You
from
feel
what
me?
you know.
I'm saying, but like, I guess from my like experience, at least, like a lot of the people that, you know, I've heard, you know, deal with the, you know, the transition process, stuff like that, have been like damn near crucified by their family, exiled. Daddy don't talk to them no more. Mommy don't talk to them no more. You feel me? Siblings don't fuck with them like that. You feel me? So kind of keep you at like an arm's length kind of thing. So, I mean, that's good to hear that, you know, at least comparatively speaking, that your story is a little bit, you know, lighter than most people.
Very.
That's typically not the case. So.
Very, and I feel like, you know, it's still worth coming here to speak on these topics, because
Right.
there are people that are feeling the way I was feeling,
Right.
and they don't know the answer. They're terrified of the answer.
So these are words of encouragement from
These are
somebody
words
who's been there.
These are words of encouragement.
I
So
respect
somebody
it.
who's still there, somebody who's living it day in and day out. 'Cause
Right.
It's still an experience to see your friends. Like, I haven't seen you in 9 years.
Hell yeah, man.
We were
Different people,
different
literally.
people a very long time
Yeah,
ago.
man,
so
for sure.
you know, it can be a little bit nerve wracking because you don't want to. Nobody wants to feel singled out. Nobody
Right.
wants to feel strange.
Right.
Like, nobody wants that feeling. Everybody wants to feel included, and you know, just feel good about themselves. So
Feel loved, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. Appreciate you, Sarah, sharing that, man. All right,
sure.
so you've had plenty of time to, you know what I mean, gather your thoughts on your cultural background
Yeah,
and everything
I
that
mean-
ensued over, you know, from your square one to your, you know, square now,
We can
right?
cut to the chase.
Okay, let's cut to it.
I have more of I think more of like a not homophobic experience per se.
Okay.
But I think like I haven't come out to my parents yet.
Okay.
I don't think they'd be surprised. Oh, for just full disclosure, I identify as a cisgender pansexual woman.
Okay.
And so, you know, I guess for anyone that doesn't know, that's, I would say, like, for my other fellow pans, the queers of queers. But literally just, like, you know, I don't really have any limitations to who my partners are. I really kind of love for love, and that's really it.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess for my...
I've never met a pansexual person before. Well, and then again, I may not know.
Hey, bro.
But I'm saying like openly, like, you feel me? Like, this
And
is,
that's what I was gonna say is for
Yeah.
the most part, right? It's like, I wouldn't say I'm hiding it from my parents, and you know, I've been confronted before about certain things, but I also wasn't quite ready to like fully come out to them. And
Right.
a lot of my concern has to do with how homophobic Africans, specifically Nigerians, can be.
right.
And so, like, you know, I'm the only daughter. I'm the oldest. There's so many, like, my name literally carries weight. Like, there's
Right.
so much to, like, my identity that, like, And like I don't think anything less of myself, you know what I'm saying? But it's almost like that fear that others are gonna think less of you.
Right.
And like in terms of just like, you know, square one, I mean, I'm Christian, Igbo Catholic, so like
Igbo Catholic.
yeah, okay,
I'm
that's
dead.
different from just Catholic, okay,
Yeah,
like
I feel that, I feel
so
that.
through the whole, you know, through the whole process that you could think of, honestly, and I think it's like I still hold those values very close, right?
Right.
But I think they've changed for me with time for the reasons that just like sometimes when you get raised in those types of environments, they can be very limiting. They're supposed to be, right? Like, you know, you're...
Hold that thought. I got you. Continue. Hold that thought.
Sorry.
Hold that thought. Hold
remember
that thought.
something?
Hold
I
that
just had
thought.
a realization, yeah.
Hold that
And
thought.
so, you know, the idea that like not only being the only girl,
Right.
the oldest child, and then just Christian
Right.
and Nigerian, and like the idea of like things are very traditional for my family.
All those
Like
things kind of clash.
there's no
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, like there's not much of like we go back home regularly, we stay in touch with people, so like it's not like there's a disconnect where I can I'm just Americanized now and that's like it, and I
Right,
can just let it
right.
roll off my back, right?
Right.
It's like I'm thinking about my family, I'm thinking about my parents, I'm thinking about my brothers, and honestly I don't know, I have I low-key have more hope for my mom than my dad, and
Right.
that's just because I know their personalities, but that's not even to like shit on my dad. Like for all I know, he could be more receptive than my mom.
Right.
Because my mom is hardcore in the church. So for all I know, he really could be the more
Always
receptive
on the prayer
parent.
line.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and for like
Prayer
really,
warriors.
okay, I know I have a prayer warrior in my corner, but my concern is that the prayer warrior might disappear when she finds out. And like, you know, I don't know. I think that my mom and I, we're very close, and I think we might have like an experience very similar to like Z and his mom's, where like we might fall off a little bit,
And then
but
pick
like
back up after
at
the
the end of
fact.
the day, right? Like, and so I don't know. I like, and it's not like I'm hiding it ever, really. Like I think on a general scale, like I've come out. Most people in my life know now, right? And I've kind of always known, but my like journey has just been so clouded, really, I think, by Christianity somewhat.
Gotcha.
So like the idea of like, you know, I'm not allowed to be doing this, I'm not supposed to be doing this, this is bad, X, Y, and Z.
Right.
I hold God very near and dear to me.
Right.
And so, you know, as a queer person going through that, like, it's been very interesting coming to like where I am now with my like spirituality
Right.
and my faith, because that was, I think, a lot of the reason why it took me so long to fully accept.
Embrace it because
Yeah.
it's not biblical.
Because
quote,
I was
unquote.
really just like, wow, I'm going to hell. And like I couldn't see it. Like I just
Couldn't see it any other way.
I couldn't get past it. I couldn't
Right.
like, I'm like, there's no way. Like I must be the devil's spawn. Cause like how could I be the first daughter of God and I'm out here, you know, out here in the streets like this. Like it's just like what I was like, and to the point where like so I would say I kind of knew like daycare, honestly. Like
Oh shit.
yeah, my
Wow.
Daycare crushes is
my
for
first
real.
sexual experience was with a girl. But I low key like never even like, to me I'm like, oh, that don't count.
Word.
And I kind of always like knew like I might be like, you know, sexually attracted, but like I would never be in a relationship with. And then like that kind of slowly grew or changed in terms of just like understanding when I really got to college, I think.
Word.
Like I had been around people who were openly out in high school, but not too many people. And most of them were, well, you know what? I have some gay guy friends that I was cool with. And now that I think about it, there was one who actually ended up transitioning.
Wow.
And so she technically was one of the first people that I would say I even knew that was trans. And I didn't even like, it was like, once we graduated and I was like, wow, that makes sense. Like, you know what, like,
Yeah.
so in terms of just exposure and like, it was more so an internal conflict for me,
Right.
just related to like my religion and related to family and like tradition and like all of that. And it just felt so like wrong. Like, how can I be, but as long, like the older I've gotten, the more in tune that I've really gotten with like just my identity and coming to a place where I can be receptive of, you know, the outward energies and just know
Right.
that I'm like and still be confident in myself.
Yeah, exactly.
And still be
Being comfortable in
confident in
yourself.
like who I know I am.
Yep.
Because I know a lot of straight people who deserve to be underground, and I'm
sure.
not that. You know
Right,
what I'm saying?
exactly.
At the end of the day, I think I'm a pretty decent, good person.
Right.
So, I guess journey and path wise, like, you know, it took me a long time. Like,
But it's still going, right? From what you
it's
said.
still
you're
going,
not-
but I think I've
yeah.
gotten to a place where I'm pretty like comfortable.
Yep.
Because like even identifying as pan didn't happen until I think 2017.
Okay.
Before
recent,
that, before that, I technically, I guess I would say like I identified as bi.
Okay.
But bi still felt weird. Like
Word.
not even weird, but like it still felt like not entirely correct.
Right.
And like I'm like, I feel like though if I came across a trans partner, I'd be okay with that.
Right.
And like it was almost like I feel like, you know, with being bi, it's like, you know, it's not necessarily just about gender, but you know, you're like cis men, cis women.
Right.
And then I thought about it, I was like, well, how would I feel though about, you know, like the genders and and I was just like, I don't care.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, what does this mean? Like, I'm on Google,
So
like,
you looked
what
it
does
up
this
and was
mean?
like, that's what I am.
Yeah,
Yep,
that's
I got
how I
you.
came.
Got
So,
you.
like, that took me a little, but it's like when I kind of said, like, bi, it took me a little bit of time, but then I realized that bi almost wasn't fully it either.
Accurate, yeah.
Yeah.
Got you.
So,
Okay. So as a transition point, right? So I know we laid down the foundation in terms of what we define as homophobia, transphobia, and your cultural backgrounds as it pertains to what you both identify as. I'm heterosexual, cisgendered male.
How do you feel
Okay.
about the term cisgender? Like, I hear a lot of niggas are got their panties in a bunch about it. Like, being
Cisgender?
called cisgender men,
I mean,
cisgender women.
Isn't that the term?
No, they're like, why is it that now that the trans people? I had a roommate, by the way, he used to call them the trans.
No,
But like, they're like, you know, now that transgender man and transgender woman are terms, why is it that we, the normal people, have to go by
I'm sure
cisgender?
about shit like that. At the end of the day, bro, if that is my term, right? Cisgender means like you were
Literally, it's biologically born
As a male.
whatever the gender I'm about to say I am. Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
that's literally.
That's
I mean, I don't have no problem with that. What the
And you
hell?
know, like, I don't know what, you know, I'm going to see what kind of questions you have, but I think, like, what I really like to bring in for people is, like, at the end of the day, we could even get, like, we can get down to the genetics, we can get down to the science, we can get down, like, I think a lot of people are so fixated on the social aspect of it
Right.
that, like, they really forget that there are people, like, yeah, there are people who identify as trans, but there are people who are out here intersex, there are people who, like, and it's like, so, if you're... The fluidity is real, and I don't really understand why people are so like fixated
Black and
on
white type,
yeah,
yep.
like the
Got you. Okay. And I'm glad you kind of brought that up too in terms of like I guess society and like the social aspect and things like that, identity and you know things of that sort, right? And the fact you said you're not hiding it, right? So I kind of wanted to speak about that because we're gonna get controversial. It's a J.I.D. podcast, right? Like I said, we laid down the law already.
Lay
We
do it.
laid down the definition. So right now,
Lay
I'm
do
going
it.
to discuss my first question for y'all in terms of you know the questions outside of definitions is: should a trans person tell you that they are trans prior to pursuing them romantically? Yes or no? Why? Why not?
would you like to answer it first or
Start.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Absolutely fucking not.
Okay.
As a transgender person, I didn't transition to have to tell every single person that I fucking meet that I've transitioned.
Okay.
I think that there and a lot of people don't understand there are very different layers to transness, right? You have trans
That's a
people.
major,
Let's unpack
that's
those
a
layers,
major key.
Let's unpack.
No, let's rewind.
let's unpack.
There are
have-
different layers to that. There's different levels
talk
to
about
it.
So
Let's
you
talk
have
about it.
you have people that medically transition like I have.
Right.
You have people that, and medically transitioning means, you know, you're taking hormones, you've either had or are planning to have gender reassignment surgery.
Right. We're gonna talk about that too. Matter of fact, after you make this point, we're gonna ask that. I'm gonna ask that question.
So there's
Then we'll go
different
back.
levels, but there's also trans people that the extent of their transness is I have told you that I'm a transgender person.
And that's it.
I identify as a woman and I have a beard. Fuck it. That's
it.
my level of transness.
Right. So nothing like necessarily invasive, right? In
So number
Right.
one, I truly in my heart of hearts do not believe that the majority of men and women will not at some point identify themselves to their partners if it gets that serious. But if I'm just going out on a date with you, I'm just going to go kick it with you. You know, I don't know where we're going. I don't know where we're headed. I may not even be serious about you.
Word.
Why? I wouldn't tell you what my credit score is on our first date, that's more serious to me than being trans. Like, motherfucker, what kind of credit is you
But
coming
it
with?
depends on the kind of vibes you on after, though, is what the point people make, though.
And like you're trying to fuck. Like, you're trying to fuck.
I'm
If
gonna
you're
say-
trying to fuck.
Like, let's clarify, though.
Exactly. So the question once again is: should a trans person tell you that they're trans prior to pursuing them romantically, right?
Prior to pursuing them romantically.
So you're talking about the date
Yes,
vibes, right?
see,
So like,
yeah, romantically or sexually?
romantically, absolutely not. I don't owe
Yes,
you
there's a
anything. If you have
difference.
crush on
but
me,
sexually,
so
so-
I think that out of just me, as in, I'm not speaking for all trans people, here,
Right.
but me personally,
Right.
I don't want anybody laying down in bed with me that they're going to have some sort of visceral reaction when they see my clothes come off. I don't want that.
Right.
So I'm going to be very upfront and very straightforward with
Out
what
the
the
gate.
fuck is about to happen.
Right.
All right.
Right.
But I understand that there are trans people that either have had their gender reassignment surgery and they don't feel the need to identify, and they shouldn't. You like pussy? You about to fuck a pussy? It was a man-made, reconstructed one, but you about to get what you're looking for.
Word.
And I think that the idea that trans people are out here tricking people is fucking bullshit. Let me
How
tell you
so?
something.
I wanna
Let
hear
me tell
it.
you something. Look at me. These niggas know. These niggas know, and they're pursuing trans women. They're pursuing trans men, whatever have you.
I will agree,
and
though.
then they're coming back when they're quote unquote exposed,
Exposed
because
and
it's no
public.
longer interesting for people to be gay. Now you're gay. It's like, oh great,
Oh,
you're
that's
getting a
normal.
sponsorship.
Right.
You're getting bread. Like, people are fucking with it.
Word.
Now if you're fucking a trans person, what happened? It was Bobby Valentino. They clowned that nigga for because they found
Oh
out he
yeah,
was
Cassidy. They was trying.
Cassidy.
To
They
clown
was
him for.
trying to clown on who was the last one that just got released?
Oh, the
Pooh
rapper,
Shiesty.
Pooh
They was
Shiesty.
trying to do him
Word.
They were
because
Oh,
it's
shit.
now it's even
Now it's a
more
problem.
it's even more of a reaction. Like, it's because we've been taught it's funny to laugh at trans experiences.
And that's
It's
a point
funny
that you
to-
made earlier in the conversation as well. But do you feel as though, okay, so you guys did make a distinction though, romantically versus sexually. So obviously romantically, you're not going to say it out the gate.
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna
because
say,
the initial conversation, right?
just to add on to it, because coming from my perspective of the, like, I guess not necessarily the datee, but like not being trans, right?
Right.
But also being attracted to trans people.
Right.
So like for me, I don't know, is this a good time to drop this? So when Z slid into my DMs,
Woo! Cat's out the bag, ladies and gentlemen.
I kind of like, I think honestly it's a little easier to an extent, right? As a queer person identifying other queer people. It's kind of
Right.
like Nigerians identifying other Nigerians. You
Right.
just get the vibe, right?
Right, yeah.
And so like when I was going through his profile, it was kind of like, I have a feeling about this, but like, it's not really in my place to be asking those kind of questions,
Right.
especially right out the gate.
Right.
And so, like, I just kind of was catching the vibe because, like, as you said, though, it's like, who knows if I'm even interested, though.
Right.
And, like, even dating, like, cisgender hetero men, it's like my first inkling isn't to, like, hop out and the first thing I'm telling you is, hey, by the way, I'm pan.
Right.
I've actually had niggas try to, like, there was this one dude who really had a whole attitude with me. I'm talking to him and he's telling me that he felt like I was too focused on, like, women. And that I liked women more, that like, and I was just, I'm really confused. Are you a woman? Like, it's not, but like, he just had a problem with, like, I guess conceptualizing the fact that I also dated women.
Right. in the
And
past.
so,
I feel like that's what kind of comes with the whole pansexual thing, though, right?
it's like I date people.
Word,
So,
yeah.
like, to me, it was weird. But I guess from the perspective of just like on the other end,
Right.
and I don't know, maybe I just have a different perspective because I understand respect
Right.
in that relation. But like, I don't remember what conversation it was that we had when Z told me, and I was just like, yeah, I kind of knew. And
So it was just like a chill convo, like, oh shit.
it was like, oh really? I was like, yeah.
Yeah, true.
I was like, oh
Yeah.
okay. So, and I was like, so what are you eating? Like literally, just kind of like
That's what's up.
hopped right over because to me.
Well, do you think it was a little bit easier because you are a member of the general
Yes, I
community
do
as well?
to an extent though, but
'Cause
I
it might
don't
be received
think
differently if
I don't
you
think
were not.
Z knew that.
I did know that.
You did?
You did?
I could figure
Okay.
that out.
Ah, shit.
So, and like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like off rip, I kind of give masculine vibes or energy or whatever have you. And I'm used to being around, like, I have 4 younger brothers. Like,
Word.
I'm literally around, you know what I'm saying?
Guys
I
all
be
the
with the
time.
niggas. So, like,
Word.
I think, but I also like to do sports and I like to be outside. Like, so I think I kind of give off, like, tomboy energy and
Word.
tomboy vibes, but, like, I don't know. Like,
Okay. So I did have a question though, right? So I know that Zelo had kind of brought up the idea of, there's different, lanes or different types of trans people, right? So kind of going back to this question again of should you tell a person they're trans prior to pursuing them romantically? You guys said there's romantically and then there's sexually, right?
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, it's like, okay, I'm just putting a scenario together here, right? So a cisgender man, right? Yeah. So a me, right? You know what I'm saying? Like meets someone who identifies as a woman, right? But didn't go through with anything, right? So like you said, pussy is pussy, whatever. If I get it done and it's surgically, whatever, that is what it is. I'm gonna get what I'm looking for, type shit. But what if this individual did not do that, right? And you feel me? We vibing. Obviously, you don't say it out the gate, right? But then the night is getting to that point. You feel me? Like now we vibing. Not even the night. It could be a day vibes, day party. You know what I'm saying? Brunch vibes. You know what I'm saying? DC, U Street 14th, whatever, right? So at that point, should this individual still not state this leading into that? I know that you said specifically in your situation that's something that you would reveal prior because you don't want a situation where people are like, oh shit, like when it kind of gets down to it. But in that situation, does that cisgender man deserve to know that the person you're about to get into bed with within the next 30 minutes might not have gone through with that surgery, although they identify as a woman?
I think too, it's kind of like, for me, right, I think it's not necessarily like a gray area per se, but it's also like the idea, like with your, like, what would you feel comfortable speaking to your other sexual partners about in general, right? So like if there's a potential of you passing something along, if there's like, where am I on birth control or not? Like there's certain things that I feel like you kind of have to cover generally. I mean, not everybody do it, but
at the same time, the birth control question, that's a question you ask when y'all, I'm saying,
so that's what,
type shit.
So that's what I'm asking though, right?
Before you put it in, hey, by the way.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So that's why I'm literally saying is like, there are certain things that I think, not necessarily like you have to discuss, but there are certain things that are appropriate to discuss before you lay with people. And so I think it's
But didn't y'all say that they don't have to?
Well, I say that romantically, right?
Okay.
Sexually, though, I think that, like I said, there are certain things that you disclose to your sexual partners in general that you wouldn't just disclose on a first date to the random person. Okay. So if you're planning on having sex with this person, it might catch them off guard.
Right.
It will.
If you know what I'm saying? So, like, it's something you should probably disclose.
That's what I'm saying. Like, but I'm saying, like, okay, so why not say it, though? I mean, I understand why not, though, right? Because the whole point of, like, potential violence and things like that may occur because the nigga might be like, oh, shit, like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I get that, yeah.
I think I always come from the standpoint of I really believe that people have to drop this notion that trans people are out here lying about
tricking people. That's the one,
I promise you.
Because I do believe that some niggas be knowing.
The majority.
Not some.
The majority.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would.
And it's like
the majority.
You can't be. How
let's say let's put stereotypes on the table.
Okay.
Trans women, especially black trans women, tend to have more masculine features, tend to have larger hands. Even though the voice is feminine, there's still a little bit of raspiness to it. Right. Larger features, like usually you can identify that. And I think that if you can't, and you get to that moment, and this is where the piece of empathy has to come in. We have to teach people empathy, and I think that that's what we've all lost on. Right. Think about if you were in that scenario, you're with somebody that you like, you want to be with this person, you're about to have sex with them. Right. You don't know what this person's feelings are about you. Who knows? Things are going so fast between the two of y'all. Y'all haven't even had a chance to stop and say, hey, wait a minute.
To really unpack things up.
They could tell you that, and they can, like you said, the violence that can be sent your way can be so severe. And especially, I think, what is it? 1 out of every 3 trans women is raped in her lifetime. Oh, wow. So you have to think the type of trauma that exists in this community. We talk about the trauma that exists in the black community, and it influences our relationships with people outside of our community, namely the police, namely white people. Right. You have to think about the violence that is a constant threat to the transgender community. Okay. And you have to put that in your mind of why wouldn't this person want to reveal this to me? Exactly. Because they don't know what your reaction is going to be back to them. I don't believe, and I'm always stand by this, I do not believe that the majority of transgender women and men are out here trying to trick anybody. People are just trying to live their lives. Right. I feel trying to live as they are. And if it gets to that point where, y'all are about to do this and you find out that this person is transgender, How about we change the narrative to I'm just gonna walk away.
You have
from
a decision to make,
and that's what I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's the point I'm making. So like, I talk to my boys about this too.
you have a decision to make.
You don't have to put them on blast.
Yeah,
you don't
You
have
can
to
stay, you can leave.
assault
you don't
them.
have to kill them. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's so many
shit,
like
my bad, Ma. I didn't realize that that's what you want.
No, I feel that like, and that's what I would say. Like, you know, I'm talking about niggas about that. And I'm like, bro, like, if I find out, you know, that you're a transgender woman, I'm probably not gonna want to indulge any further.
And that's okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but I'm not gonna beat your ass. I'm not gonna snake. I'm not gonna go on Twitter and
you know what I'm
feel
saying?
Me?
Like, it's like,
I don't know.
Okay.
I feel
but
like
again, we've been indoctrinated that trans experiences are worthy of laughs.
Word.
They get the most laughs. And so when we talk about the microaggressions,
right.
I'll always bring up this fact: trans jokes have to be taken more seriously. We have to be very serious about the words and the ideas that we put out into the universe about a group that is so fucking marginalized and is still coming up in modern day society.
Okay.
I don't agree with it. You know, if you're out here trying to hide, why you want to hide who you are, man? Be proud of who you are.
Right.
Or,
okay. And to that point, though, right? So, is it transphobic to not want to date a transgender individual? Like, let's say I just let's say I say, yo, as a cisgender man, I only want to date cisgender women who identify as women. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah.
That's your preference.
Right. But is that okay? You feel me? Because I feel like, I guess, at least on social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
This idea of being a cisgender man and only wanting cisgender women who identify as such, you know, cisgender heterosexual women, is like transphobic, right? So I kind of, like I said, this is all about unpacking it straight from the source, right?
I think that there's way deeper shit out there that is transphobic. And I think as long as it's, I'm not trying to date no tranny bitch, like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not, that's what I'm saying. Like, not even off no violent energy.
I feel like for me, it's like the reason, right? It's like, are you transphobic or are you just not attracted to
trans?
Yeah, I feel like it can literally, that's what I'm saying. It can be literally as simple as that. Yeah. I only am into cisgender heterosexual women.
And I'll be honest, I have yet to meet a transgender woman that I can say that I'm attracted to. Like, Adachi is pansexual, and Adachi would conceptually date a transgender woman or a transgender man. Right. Me personally, I'm not attracted to other transgender. Not into that. I'm not attracted to other transgender people.
Oh, sorry. Is that not?
At least I've not met another transgender
statement to make there.
I don't even say it's not a good statement, but
I'm sorry. I'm learning on the fly, ladies and gentlemen.
Learning on the fly.
Yes,
and maybe who knows? Maybe I can be a little bit sensitive. Yeah. But I can be honest in that and say that it's a preference. Like, I have a preference. I prefer to date cisgender women.
Okay. And that's
okay,
ladies and gentlemen. That is him speaking as a transgender man himself.
Yeah. So that's okay.
Okay, so we're going to piggyback off that. Not even piggyback. We're going to transition again, right? So we're talking about transgender people before, but now we want to take it over to, I guess, the homosexual side of things. You know, I'm trying to make sure that I'm getting the terminology right now. You feel me? So I have a question specifically I see on social media a lot, and it's this idea that women are not into men that are interested in men. So my question is, why is it more socially acceptable for women than it is for men? So elaboration, right? So men are more likely to look past a woman who's explored with other women than a woman is to look past a man who has explored with another man. And I want to know from you guys, why do you think that is?
It's a social thing.
Let's talk about it.
So like the idea that to be gay and to be a gay man reflects or emulates femininity.
The ability to provide and protect and all those things.
And as we already know in society in general, femininity is, or masculinity is more highly regarded than femininity.
Right.
So as a man who reflects femininity, it's kind of already, like it's problematic.
Right.
And just within society, like we're already taught, it's almost like you said, like it's better to be like a stud than it is to be like a
twink.
Like a, you know what I'm saying?
That's the term. That is the literal term.
Is that a politically correct? I mean, hey, look,
let me tell you something. One of my best friends is that boy's
the epitome.
The epitome, sassy, and he uses it all the time. So. No,
so I hope
it is the term though.
Hopefully I'm not offending any, but like because like we
said, podcast, man.
Like there are people within the community.
Man. I catch you up.
There are people within the community who have different definitions.
Right.
Like I mean, I don't know if you have this on here, but there are people within the community that are cool with you using the word fag. I'm not one of them. You know what I'm saying? So like, it depends on who you're.
I actually do have that in my notes.
So we'll get there. So in terms,
I just want to know your thoughts on it. So you can make that point right now. So what are your thoughts on that? So fag, you said suspect, pause, no homo.
Yeah, I mean,
all that.
if
Like,
you're
what are
if
your
you're
thoughts on
not
this?
homo, why are you re-emphasizing the fact that you're not homo? Like, to me, it's like it's a force.
Facts. I
You
feel
know what I'm
the same
saying?
way.
Like,
why you
why do you need to add on to that?
A lot of time as men, it's like that.
You
I
have
have
to
to constantly reinforce my dominance
publicly
that nobody
that
is going
there's
to.
nothing
I
going
found
on
that
here.
so weird though. It's like, bro, like if you know that you a straight man and you only into women,
you know what's crazy?
Why are you pausing everything?
Do you know what's crazy though?
What's up?
I noticed that only black men pause. I don't really.
I've never heard white men say pause.
I don't hear no white men talking about
That's low-key
pause.
facts.
No
But-
homo. Nope. I don't hear that.
But I think that realistically, we have to give truth to power, and the truth is that that black men have
I
been
know there's a reason why.
traumatized,
Right, obviously.
and it links way back to slavery. Black men
Right.
were raped and assaulted and turned into
Yeah,
feminine
the
beings
whole- yeah.
as a means to break down the
Dehumanize them.
strength
Yep.
and dehumanize them.
Right.
So I think that,
that's
Charles Darwin,
rooted.
we believe in Darwinism. We
rooted.
believe in how, over time species evolve to adapt
Right.
to their
Right.
to their environment, right?
Right.
Black men have had to do this.
Right.
Right.
Black men are thrown in prison. Let me tell you something, man. Prison is the worst place in the world that you can be to be a gay person. It's the worst place in the
trans.
world that you can be to a trans person.
Yeah.
What's the pipeline for a lot of black men? What do they tell you the fears of black men? I'm gonna throw your black ass in prison.
Right.
I'm gonna do everything. Like, it's almost like prison. It's like, it's their way to say it's just the one fucking step away from slavery that we have that we can legally use against you.
And it is.
And it may as well be
It is,
slavery.
Right.
yeah.
So it's like, I consider all of those traumatic experiences and things like that
They
when
have to
I
be
look at
considered.
why
I
black
agree.
men are so just as a unit. And it's not every black man. I know plenty of black men. Most of the niggas I know are not transphobic
Word.
and are not homophobic. Why? Because they got better shit to worry about.
Facts.
But the ones that are, think about it. Education. We talked about it. Education is the root of power. When you're educated, you know better, you do better.
Facts.
The environment that
Even
they
the
live in,
envi-
it's
yeah, I was
so
about to say
it's
the
so concrete
environments.
jungle. Like come on, we're like uppity ass niggas. Like, we have it nice. Like, life is good for us.
Yeah.
But that's
I'm
not the
from the
case
burbs. I
around the
can't
corner.
even.
We could drive right down the fucking block and we could see that that's not the case. And them niggas over there, they have to protect that dominance, that
The
masculinity.
Right.
Because
Yeah,
once they
it's a
break that, what are you?
Facts. Okay. And to that point though, right? So we're talking about, pause, no homo, all those statements like that, right? Would you guys argue or agree with the argument that the biggest homophobic pause, no homo ass niggas got stuff that they dealing with themselves that they don't want to reveal to the public?
I think so, but also like I really have to like hammer in that
Let's talk about it.
education piece
Let's
and
talk
like
about
the
it.
ignorance and like the fear,
Yep.
the phobia. Like it's literally. I haven't told Z this, but
You get new information on the show, ladies and
yeah,
gentlemen.
I had somebody cut me off because they found out her husband found out that Z's trans,
Ooh.
and so
That happened recently?
It's a recent development on the JAD podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, you didn't tell me this?
huh?
You didn't tell me this?
It's getting heated. Let's go.
Oh.
Speak on
I'm
it.
sorry, honey.
And so I felt like a lot of it was kind of like, it's like, how do you forget everything that you ever knew about a person in terms of like memories, in terms of like everything, right?
Right.
And then you find something now and it's like all
You
of
cut
that
it off.
just
Yeah, like
was
what?
washed away.
Exactly.
It's like, so when it's not like I just turned pan yesterday. Like,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? It's like I've identified as this, you knew me as this, and the moment that like my partner kind of reinforced it,
Right.
it became the problem.
Exactly.
How did the person find out I was trans?
I don't know.
Oh, maybe they looked me up.
Could be.
Your
Your name is pretty distinct though.
So the wife knew, and
Do I know
then
these people?
We're not gonna name drop on the JAD podcast. That's for sure.
please don't make me.
No, we not doing that.
And so-
We not doing that. We not
yeah,
doing
we
that.
gonna keep it anonymous.
Alright, we gonna
but
talk about this when
I'm
we
sure
get
they knew. Yeah, it's okay. So
Bastards.
what was your question? You just,
I asked, how did they find out?
so I know that the wife knew because that was my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think all her married friends.
LOL. And so now I don't know how the husband found out.
Okay.
Because that's not information that I revealed directly to the husband. That wasn't my friend. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I don't know how the conversation came up. I've been actually really battling for a while how to have like follow-up conversations
about it.
But like in general, yeah, because I had to hear through the grapevine. It's just like been dodging me, ducking me, ignoring me, and I started peeping what was going on.
I'm aware.
I started peeping what was going on, and then it's like, oh, okay.
That's very strange because I could give a fuck about that nigga. Like I could never speak to that man.
What we not gonna do is get into specifics right now.
No. But it clicked to me.
Okay, I mean, and
I'm very aware of what's going on in my woman's life. I'm like, who hasn't been hitting her up recently?
As they said though, ladies and gentlemen, they are a couple.
We are together.
So they're gonna discuss this off camera.
At home.
But I do have a question. I do have a question for y'all though, kind of piggybacking off this idea of potentially cutting people off as a result of who they love, right? And I wanted to ask you guys a question of: is it homophobic to not have gay friends?
I think it was very transphobic of them to cut me off
Okay.
for that reason.
Okay.
Y'all don't even like. It's kind of like again the ignorance aspect, right?
Right.
So like because how it was, and this is also kind of the part that rubbed me wrong, was
Right.
it was explained to me as, well, like people have their prejudices, as like as a member that's also not part of the community, you have to understand. And it's like, I don't have to understand shit.
Anything, yeah.
Like, this is my regular life. This is the life that I live on a daily basis,
Take it or
in
leave
and
it.
out.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what I don't understand is how you have such a big problem with it.
Right.
Like, if I'm being treated well, if I'm being loved, if I'm in a healthy situation.
You feel fulfilled, right?
And
yeah.
it's literally like, I mean, this is about to be recorded and whatever, but like, if this is literally like the healthiest thing that I've ever been in, like the like best relationship that I've been in.
Healthiest, come on, man.
Like, it's
Yes,
like,
sir.
what, like,
Get
you're
you a
not
trans nigga.
you're not happy for me.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like, all the bullshit that I've been dealing with up until this nigga, and now it's like, I'm happy, I'm like, and I'm being taken care of, if not like just as well or better than you, and now
Right.
it's a problem. That's
And now
kind
you're trying to switch up. Yeah.
That's a little weird to me.
Yeah.
And also, just like, if you're supposed to be my friend, I think that my reaction to not understanding stuff as your friend
Right.
isn't to cut you off and never talk to you again. For me, it's like, if I don't understand, why wouldn't I try to find out more, ask you, look, if I'm supposed to be your friend,
Exactly.
if that friendship was supposed to be what it was,
Exactly.
I wouldn't expect the reaction to be cut off. Like,
Exactly.
that was kind of like,
Try to get more education about it, understand more.
and
of the
and I think that's the problem, right?
Right.
Is that people don't even want to educate themselves. They don't think they need to educate themselves. They don't feel the need to, and they're it's okay and it's acceptable to live in their prejudices, but I'm supposed to understand.
Okay, and the question about prejudices, right? So there's people that are on two sides of this argument that I'm about to name, right? I think you guys might know what it is. So this nature versus nurture argument as it pertains to the LBGTQIA plus community, right? What side are you on?
I was raised, my mother, like Adachi said, my mother's a prayer warrior. My mother doesn't miss church. My mom, when I call my mom, oh, baby, I'm on a prayer line. Let me call you back. I'm on the other line. My mom prays for me day in and day out.
Right.
I wasn't raised to hate gay people at all. But I definitely was not raised in an environment where homosexuality
Was welcome.
Talked about.
welcome,
Yeah,
was
right.
praised,
Right.
was treated anything other than, just like something very negative.
Right.
So I wasn't nurtured. I wasn't raised to be that way. I don't think that, like, look at most of our parents. Her parents are heterosexual.
Right.
My parents are heterosexual.
Right.
Two people, nine times out of 10, until like maybe 2000 and beyond,
Right.
everybody's fucking parents were straight.
Yeah,
Right.
like you
So
couldn't even
nobody's
adopt.
raised to be that way. I'll tell you, if Adachi and I get married and have children, we're not going to raise our children like, hey, you're going to be gay, you're going to be the trans one,
Right.
you can be pan. And, like, we're not
Everybody got
doing that
part
to
of
our
the
kids, but at the same time, we're going to allow that freedom of expression, because what happens when you deny that expression? It still happens anyway.
Right.
My mom wanted me to wear dresses, and here I am.
You weren't feeling it. Exactly.
Wasn't feeling that shit. So it wasn't that I was nurtured that way. It's just a matter of what the universe kind of had in store for me, And
Got you.
and I had a decision to make. I didn't have to transition.
Right.
But I think I can genuinely say I think it would have killed me. I think that who I am now and who I was then you know, maybe I've always been the same person, but I feel so much better about myself as a person.
Word.
I feel like I can go out into the world and I can, that like Joe, when I tell you, bro, every waking thought of my existence before I transitioned and before I told my mother was about that. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. Every waking thought that I had was about this. And I couldn't find peace. I couldn't find stability in my life. Like, I was really on a downward spiral, man. Like, I can be honest, I became addicted to drugs. I was drinking, like, selling drugs, like, out of fucking control, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was really one step away from losing everything in my life. And I had a choice to make. Like, man, like, this is gonna be the choice that I make, and this is a choice that I make every single day.
Right.
You know, I choose every single day that this is how I'm gonna live.
Right.
This is the source of my happiness. This is the key that unlocked that door for me. So,
right.
Nature, I think it's divine. It's a divine choice. It's a divine opportunity and experience. And that's just where I'm gonna leave it. I don't really believe one way or the other.
Okay, so you saying that there might be some nurture, but you don't really think you were raised that way.
I definitely don't think I was raised to be transgender.
Got you.
No.
What do you think? Nature or nurture? I'm gonna say my opinions on it too, because I've been letting y'all talk a little bit, but
I think I agree, and it kind of touched on the idea of what I was talking about earlier with just like it does occur in nature,
right?
And that's why I really try to remind people that, like, you know, this whole level of like the unknown and like, oh my gosh, it's such a, and it's like, yo, there are babies born every day who just, you know, parents got to make the decision. So it's like, it's to me, it's like, again, like I said, the fluidity.
Right.
I said, and there is a real science behind it.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, for me, it's a level of fluidity. It's like, it doesn't have to be science for you to understand it,
right,
or for you to agree with it, or nature, right? But it
right.
occurs in nature. So like, what are we really arguing about though? Like, and it's not to say that this specific occurrence isn't nature. I'm not saying that either.
Right.
But I'm just saying, like, why are we even arguing about it though when it does
happens. It's
occur?
It's
it happens regularly.
But
there's
that's
a species of fish, parrotfish. There's a specific species of fish where after 10 years, if the female parrotfish is never fertilized and never
it switches over to,
she transitions, like literally as a
animal.
That shit
happens. And then well, I guess now at that point,
even talking biologically. So today, literally, this is such a coincidence. Remember when I was like, today is my 3rd year transversary.
Oh,
I took my first.
Not you with this.
I was like, oh shit, it's June 4th. We were spinning out all these dates, and I was like,
the revelation you had earlier?
That was a revelation. I was like,
happy
oh my
transversary
God.
To you.
Thank you. Happy 3 years of transitioning to me. Happy 3 years of living in my genuine life, my truth,
that's
my
what's
happiness.
up, man.
And just doing that. And funny enough, when I first went to get tested, because they do a lot of tests on you before they allow you to start transitioning.
Word.
They tested my hormone levels, and man, can you imagine? I had 12 times the normal level of testosterone in my body before I ever transitioned.
So you knew,
so
like,
not even I knew,
like,
but you have to think about how those hormones have affected.
You know what I'm saying?
Built me out mentally.
Because it's like literally that was the that was the nature, right? That was before anything was added. That was before. And so when I try to like get people to level, it's like, I need you to understand though that there are people who are naturally higher on, like, they have higher levels of testosterone.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if I'm one of them, to keep it a stack.
Word.
But then at the same time, there are people who are higher on, like, you know, higher levels of estrogen.
Right.
And they can still on the scale, bro.
Cisgendered male side of things.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's the scale is like, and I think because it's so, like, to me, it's like, it's so, it occurs in science and the real world and all of this. Like, I find it so, I find, like, why is it so hard to accept socially still?
And I think, okay, so for me, I guess kind of stating my opinion on it, I don't think it's necessarily hard to accept socially. I would say that before, like, a lot of these concepts were just like, these niggas tripping. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, literally. For me, it's like, man, like, I don't know. Like, for me, like, if you ask me, like, maybe 5 to 8 years ago, like, yo, is this shit nature versus nurture? I'm like, these niggas, they just pick this life type shit. You know what I mean? But I feel like after, like, actually meeting people who are actually, like, that identify as such, you know what I'm saying? You start to realize, like, yo, like, these niggas really born like this for real. You know what I'm saying? I do think, though, that, like, there's probably some portions of your life that you're, like, confirms, like, shit, you know what? Like you said, you don't fuck with dresses. Like, shit like that. Your mom keep putting you in a dress every day. You realize, like, my nigga, like, you know what I'm saying?
Like,
that is
you,
part
you
of
forcing this point for me.
That
now.
is part of, you know what I'm saying, you being nurtured into, you know what I'm saying? So like I wouldn't necessarily say like, oh, like, you know, your parents nurture you and say, all right, nigga, you about to be gay today. You know what I'm saying? Feel me? It's not gonna be like that necessarily, but you know what I mean? Like I feel like to a certain degree there might be certain parts of your life, you know, your upbringing that like kind of confirm like, you know what?
That was it.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like kind of like that light bulb that kind of goes off in your mind. That's what I think though. But I wouldn't say people like necessarily. I mean, obviously some people are super pressed about like, let's debate this all day.
Yeah.
I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, just kind of going against the whole, or not going against, but like kind of going along with the whole no homo pause thing. You know, all these niggas trying to prove how masculine they are. So like, oh my nigga, I ain't never had no gay shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying?
And
like,
all it is they just trying to keep that little booty hole tight. That's all.
I'm dead as hell, man.
They also just want to make sure that society knows that they booty hole tight. That's really
Yeah, for
Word.
real.
It's not about that. It's
men
really
do a lot of
about-
shit to impress
So
other
y'all
It's
feel
a
like,
lot
okay,
of,
and
like,
that's gonna be the final question I'm gonna ask you guys today. Is do you guys think that a lot of people, or a good amount of, I guess, since we're all, you know, black here, would you think that like a lot of people are kind of more so afraid of what people say in reference to why they are hyper masculine, or would you say it's just kind of like a, I guess, internal thing, like I just don't want to share it type thing? So like more so like, yeah, like, you know, I don't want to be bashed socially if I, you know, say that I got gay friends and stuff like that. Kind of like I asked you before, is it homophobic to not have gay friends? Because, you know, for some people, it's situations where, you
There
know,
ain't no gay
it might
people
be. That's what I'm
around.
saying, and that's why I have my notes here. Is it? What if it's purely circumstantial?
My G.
You know what I'm saying?
I think that I am my only transgender friend. And it's not for, I swear to God, it's not for lack of trying.
Word.
It's just
No, I think,
some people ain't for you.
Word.
And I'm not going to give everybody a special pass just because you're trans. You can be trans and be a piece of shit.
And that's why I
Word.
keep trying to. Yeah.
Same way
Actually,
could
no,
be-
I do have a let me not say that. Dallas, you my boy.
I'm dead. He still dropped the name though.
Oh, damn, bro.
I'm dead. Continue though.
But I'm just saying in the sense that, like, I don't know. Continue.
Ooh, it's a lot of silence occurring here because niggas holding
If you
holding back
purposely-
what y'all want to say.
Because
Don't have-
the problem is like
Yep.
it's not. It's the intent, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So like with my friend, right?
Right.
It's like we didn't just fall off and naturally now we're no longer
we
friends.
fell off.
Right.
You fell off because
For
you
this
cut
reason,
me off, like,
something-
and for
yeah.
that reason and that reason alone.
That's transphobic.
Before
Right.
that, after there was nothing. You know what I'm saying? It was literally just
And me and
that
Shorty
reason.
got along well. Me and the wife. And the husband, I had a lot
Word.
of respect for him.
Word.
So it's just kind of like, you know, when you do it like that, I think that's when you start. Now you're doing it. It's like it's intentional.
Right.
If you just not having friends, like, I mean, and like I said, I like to kind of bring it back to race relations specifically for Black people.
Right.
Is like, you know, I'm not going to a white person to speak on Black and racial discrimination and race relations and da-da-da. No offense, but they're not about to teach me anything.
Right.
If anything, I'm talking to fellow Black people and trying to figure out, like, what's your experience
Right.
within the diaspora, whatever have
Exactly.
you, right?
Yep.
Same thing. You can't tell me that you're going to talk to your straight homeboys and you about to get knowledge about the queer community.
Right.
What angle is it coming from?
That's why
What is
even
your
with this
intent?
episode, man, y'all see the guests I brought on.
What is your?
You know what I'm saying? Like,
intent?
what the hell would we talk about here? You know what I'm saying? Like, it just makes sense to
And I
bring.
don't think I ever got to answer that question. I don't think. I think that purposefully, like you said, not having homosexual friends because you're afraid that if I'm around these people, I'm going to be deemed such. Obviously, that's homophobic. Like you're cutting
For whatever
off
reason, honestly.
You're
If
cutting
you-
off a great. Who knows? That could be a really great friend. I really did speak out of my ass. I have a lot of trans friends. Let me say that. But you know, you purposely saying I'm not gonna fuck with you just because you're gay. Hell yeah, that's transphobic, or that's homophobic, or that's transphobic. Or if it's just by fucking coincidence, when I lived in Arizona, I did not know any trans people in fucking Arizona.
Word.
That's so like, what am I supposed to do about it?
Sometimes it is truly
just
circumstantial.
circumstantial.
But what is your thoughts on people that are like, okay, I can have gay friends, but as long as they don't like me, I'm chilling.
If you worried about that, bruh, you worry about the wrong shit. Again, your
Most of the
mind is
time,
all
your
around.
gay
I would-
friend
I
is
would-
not
I would-
checking for you though.
That's what I'm saying,
And
like-
like I think that it's also like, right. So you have to think about it, right? Z and I are different people. Z likes to only like date people, and then he likes to have separate friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can be friends with people that I've dated before, during, or after.
Right.
That's just my preference
Right.
and like what I'm, you know, like what I'm. Now, not everybody's friends, but you know what
Right,
I'm saying?
right,
Like,
right.
I don't have that problem. Z prefers to separate in terms of dating.
Right, right.
It's very similar. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
you make that distinction for yourself.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the whole as long as they don't like me thing is like, my nigga, you focus on the wrong thing right now, bro.
Bruh, these
Like,
niggas, the nails under the dirt that be under their fingers, the nastiness that exudes from their body. Who's looking for you?
It's
fact. And even then, people be talking about that too. Apparently, some niggas think it's suspect or gay to get pedicures and manicures.
and it's like you don't want your nails to be clean.
Men, it is not gay to get manicures and pedicures. I had to put that out there right now.
One of my favorite comedy skits is Tom Segura, and he goes, "The only way that you can say something is gay is if there are 10 men and each of them have their dick in each other's asses,
Right,
and
literally
they're
like
marching around like, we want the cum,
Like, literally.
give me the cum." He said, and you can be like, that's gay,
That's
and even
gay.
then be like, ah.
But no, valid though. Yeah, it's sensitivity though, and like again, the insecurity and the idea of like being perceived as and all this other stuff, right?
A lot of times men just don't want their booty touched, and they're afraid of that. That's all. Get your booty ate, guys.
Oh.
Get it touched.
Oh, yeah.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we are wrapping up the.
If you want it done by a woman, get it done by a woman. If you want it done
And
by
that's a point. That's a real good point because it did. I know you
my
wanted
gosh,
to end,
bro.
but
Nah,
it
you good, yeah,
It
yeah.
taps even back to like you
Let's
said,
go.
like women thinking that men that are with other men are like they can't. It's
Right.
like it's not gay for a heterosexual man to receive anal play from a heterosexual woman. That is a heterosexual interaction.
That is a topic in itself too. That's a big debate on social media, though.
If we're confused about that, and that again, it ties into the idea
And see
that
my
certain
immature ass. You see, I'm over
things,
here laughing.
there's like certain things are considered to be gay, and now it's like you can't touch it
Like
because
certain
you're
acts,
a man.
right?
And
Yeah,
like,
certain
and
acts.
it's like, nah, if you're having sex with a woman, what about that is gay? You're with the woman.
I don't know. I feel like for me, like, because I've had debates with people about that too, and I feel like for me, it's just like, what if I just don't want that? Like, does
Then
that make
don't,
And
yeah,
that's
yo,
a preference
then that's assault if they
stuff.
That's
do
what
it
it
against
is
your
for me.
will.
It's a preference.
I just don't want that.
stuff.
You feel
there
me?
are certain things that I don't want. Period. Don't touch. Don't do. I don't like that.
Yeah.
And then there are other things where it's like, all right, we could do that. It doesn't matter who it is. So again, I like to reiterate: if you are a heterosexual woman interacting with a heterosexual man and he wants his ass ate, it's not gay. You are a woman. You're not a man. That's the only way it's gonna be gay. I'm just not understanding the confusion.
I think that's an excellent final point for today's episode.
Deuces.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Season 4, Episode 1 of the J Podcast. We're talking about homophobia / transphobia. We got Z-Lore and Adachi right here, man. We talked about that real. They shout out the social media earlier. We're not going to shout out again, but we might put it down in a little editing piece, at the end of the video. But without further ado, follow me on Instagram once again at Joe the Great. That's JOETHEGR8, as well as my podcast page at j.ade.pod. Once again, I wanted to show love to everybody who has been showing me love since 2019, man. This is Season 4 once again. It's love, appreciate it. It's honor, appreciate it. Everybody love everybody. We out.
Yo, holla, thank you for having the show.